Hi, my name's Sean OMeallie. I'm a local sculptor known for colorful wooden objects that I make. People might know that I've had a background in toy inventing. This is a book called Inside Santa's Workshop, and it's about the toy inventing business. There were about 200 inventors when I was in this business that the toy companies would talk to and trusted and knew. The guy who invited me to do toys with him is listed in this book. He approached me some years ago, back in '88, when the toy business was booming. Ninja Turtles had just hit the market, I think. Cabbage Patch Kids was thriving. And he's based in New York and needed somebody who could help him get his toy ideas across to these manufacturers. So he needed somebody to develop storyboards and models, working models of toy concepts. This is what I did for him. I was in my basement. I kept the shades drawn. I couldn't have my kids tell their friends too much of what I was doing. And I couldn't talk to any of my other friends about what I was doing. This is the kind of thing that we would work on. He had the idea of putting a tool part on the top of a little action figure and using this tool part in the figure to make little projects. Little kids could grab these little characters and develop things. So we developed a way these things would look, gave them a name, Building Buddies, showed how they could be fabricated safely, showed how they could be differentiated from one another and have different offerings for the child. More of a reason to collect more than one, but basically it's an environment that we were trying to sell here. This was geared toward 3 to 5-year-old boys. So on the top of each of these characters is a different tool. And the tools engage the playset like a vehicle or a building or something that the child can assemble and disassemble with the help of this little character. And then the character could ride in the car that they had assembled. And this did get to market, went to a small toy company out of Hong Kong, and it generated a little bit of money for us. The toy companies pay out a royalty based on sales of the toy concept in the marketplace. And our goals were always set on trying to sell to companies like Fisher-Price and Hasbro and Mattel, and to see the greatest return on my partner's investment. If we had sold something to a big toy company, they would have shared with us the profits of the toy, something like 5% of the wholesale price of the toy. And the toy companies have such large numbers that they produce that an inventor could make a lot of money. And that's what we were after. We never quite succeeded with it. We got a few things to the gate, but never got to the big race with any of these concepts. Here's another idea, a storyboard for a next generation stick horse, changing it into a dinosaur, which children love, giving it some articulation so that you could move the jaw of the animal, and give a child another way to interact with their toy. Sometimes we would even get into how the packaging would look on a project. And these were just suggestions. Oftentimes the toy companies were so large that they'd have their own design departments and marketing strategies, and they would redesign a concept that we had presented. Here's a sort of a works-like volume study made out of foam core, which is it's a kind of a thick cardboard such stuff, lightweight. And I've taped it together in the shape of a little house here that a child could open up and find a little world inside. And so this is just the paper version. I did this for my own logistical exploration. And later on we adapted the idea to this. Here's now a doll with a sort of a big bulky dress, but if you open the dress, you see there's a little world inside, all kinds of fun little forest friends to play with. Here we're looking at a doll to play with, plus piece count and containment and secrecy. Those are all sorts of narratives that were a part of many, many toys. This was a project that we developed with a local artist named Nancy Duell, who's a nationally known graphic artist. She drew up some little car babies, and I sculpted from her drawings. And we developed this little line, car babies and car hops. They're little buddies, and this got to market too, again with a very small company. Little Secrets was, here's an idea of secrecy. We're combining a seashell where you can hear the ocean roar with the idea of placing a little character, a little doll inside that shell. So there's sort of a reveal, a conceal play going on. The doll would have a little recorded message or two that it would play out when you push a button. And you see another reason to collect more than one. So here's a robot. This is a kind of a big, non-electric, just mechanical doll on wheels that you could walk behind and push along and pick up objects from the floor. We thought mothers would see the value in a child picking up their toys. Fisher-Price had us build this model. I did this in my shop. It's made out of wood. And it took me about 3 months, and I sent it off to them, and they tested it with children, and they found that children would sit in front of the toy and want to interact with it. They'd look at its eyes and poke around on its chest and such. They wouldn't get behind it to walk along and push it around the room, which, I think, well, duh, that's kind of obvious now. But, at the time I was thinking mothers would really like this kind of thing. I knew back in my house, my wife and I would love the idea. We would use it to pick up the kids' toys, but it's not what kids at that age range were doing. Another design project, this is with Brio, a Swedish toy company known for making wooden train sets and wooden pull toys and such. I had sort of a design/inventor relationship with Brio, and went over there a couple of times, and they brought this little puppy to market. It's got a little mechanism that wags its head. That stayed in their line for about 10 years. It made us a little money, but it wasn't the typical sort of thing we were after. We were just trying to sell concepts mostly. This is another little tangent design project. This is a toy car. I only made one of these, and we didn't sell it, but there's a point in time when a child's life that they can really just pull at things that they might get their hands on. So there's sort of like this destructive thing happens. These toys get pulled apart and parts get scattered. Well, this little toy was an idea of having all the parts to it strung together so that as a child pulls it apart at one point in their development, that's cool. They seem to satisfy something with their manual dexterity. But then you could pull the string on this thing and it all come back together and restore itself and be a little pull toy. No loose parts, no choking hazards. And it was a pull toy. You pull it apart, you pull it together, and you pull it along the floor.